Hello, friends, and welcome back to 5 Agendas for our next thought paper for August 15th that just sent out the other day, and had some time today to do the video. So, yeah, if you hit the bell on the YouTube channel, it'll notify you when the videos are uploaded. This is going to be very important. This is on the mingled blood on the Day of Atonement. And it's something that I never knew or understood before, so it was new to me. So if it's new to you, don't worry about it. Take it slowly, pray about it, and review it. So here we go. The mingled blood on the Day of Atonement, Alpha and Omega. Yes, it's connected. Melchizedek and the Order of Melchizedek. Okay. If you were to be asked, what is the significance of the mingling of the blood of the bullock and the Lord's goat, as required on the Day of Atonement, here in Leviticus 16:18, and ministered in the court, how would you explain this in its antitypical application in relation to our great high priest after the order of Melchizedek? Just as there were two goats, the Lord's goat and the scapegoat, which was Azazel, there was the offering of the bullock. These verses. Please read and check them out. You can pause this at any time. Which equals the lamb slain from before the foundation of the world, where the blood of the bullock was sprinkled on the mercy seat. Then the Lord's goat is offered, verse 15, which equals Calvary, and the same sprinkling as the blood of the bullock. That it is to make an atonement for the holy place because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel and because of their transgressions and all their sins. And so shall he do for the tabernacle of the congregation that remaineth among them in the midst of their uncleanness. And there shall be no man in the tabernacle of the congregation when he goeth in to make an atonement in the holy place, that's the most holy, until he come out and have made an atonement for himself and for his household and for all the congregation of Israel. Then the final ministration in the court and the final atonement. And he shall go out unto the altar that is before the Lord and make an atonement for it, and shall take of the blood of the bullock and of the blood of the goat, and put it upon the horns of the altar round about, that is, in the altar that is in the court. There's the mingling of the blood of the bullock and the blood of the goat. Well, we know God specifies the ministration of the two mingled bloods for an atonement of cleansing, which is the last ministration of the Day of Atonement. But how would you explain what the two mingled bloods represent in its antitypical Day of Atonement, or for that matter, its apotalismatic setting? Does this have any relationship to the 1290 days of Matthew 24:15? But why the court? And then, does this explain why John was told to not measure the court, which is just prior to the commencement of the testimony of the two witnesses of the 42 months or 1260 days? It says, and there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court, which is without the temple, leave out, Measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 40 and 2 months, 1260 days. How does the detail of Revelation 11, 1-2 become relevant to the ministration of he who made after the order of Melchizedek? How is this ministration in the court hold bearing upon the cleansing of the heavens and the individual in Hebrews 9, 23-24? Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission. It was therefore necessary that the patterns of things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Christ has not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Notice Hebrews 9:26 and its specific comparison to Revelation 13:8. Now this is interesting. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. There's your alpha. But now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. There's your omega. There's Hebrews 9:26. Okay? But did you see? From 13:8, the lamb slain from before the foundation of the world. The only way to obtain a precise explanation of the two purposeful aspects of Christ's alpha, eternal identity, and offering is the lamb slain from before the foundation of the world, which is John 1, and his omega identity from Romans 1, 3, and 4. That required the sacrifice of himself when in the flesh. Hebrews 9:26. What then is the answer of the requirement for the cleansing of the mingled blood of the Lord's goat and the blood of the bullock? Does it have any bearing to the first angel's warning? Yes, it does. Melchizedek, Alpha and Omega, bullock of blood, Lord's goat. The order of Melchizedek equals the root of Levi and is explained here. There's your link to the thought paper that explains it. The order of Melchizedek equals the root of Levi. However, for this discussion, the key point in relation to he who made in the order of Melchizedek is as follows. Melchizedek, Hebrews 7:3, equals the root of Levi, and that's the alpha scenario, without father, mother, beginning of days, or end of life. The Melchizedek made like unto the Son of God equals Romans 1:3, and that's the omega scenario. Without father and mother, Melchizedek made like unto the Son of God. There's your omega scenario. And that's your after the order of Melchizedek. How is this alpha and omega detail related to Christ's ministrations as great high priest and the final atonement? Answer. For it was prophesied to usher in eternal righteousness There's a video on it. Therefore, the twofold offering of the mingled blood held all the purity of righteousness, as they were the epitome of the qualifications of eternal righteousness, which was required for the final atonement. In other words, the two mingled bloods of the type, the bullock and the Lord's goat, relates utterly to John 1:1. And this is the entire hearing as to the first angel's warning is all about. Observe. Number one, you have the Alpha, the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world, which relates to John 1:1, Revelation 13:8, the Lamb slain, Hebrews 9:26. That's the bullock. That's the Alpha, the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world, in that Alpha state. That's what that blood of the bullock represented. Number two, the Omega, Romans 1:3, made like unto the Son of God, declared to be the Son of God. That's the ministration of the blood, the final atonement. That's the Lord's goat. So two bloods. The bullock is the Alpha. The Lord's goat is the Omega. What is the relation of the mingling of the bullock's blood and the Lord's goat to the authentication of the Day of Atonement? Answer: it is what it has always been about. So what is this, these mingling of these two bloods? What does it mean? What is it all about? It's about Christ's eternal righteousness by faith. The type required both the blood of the Lord's goat and the bullock for ministration at the altar in the court. Clearly established. And that equaled the last ministration of the final atonement in the type. The antitypical must have its atoned application, and this must relate to Christ and his eternal identity, which relates to his eternal righteousness. The offered bullock and the goat blood was sprinkled at the altar in the court to effectuate the cleansing of the final atonement. Yes, both the heavens and man. Christ's eternal identity, which was his Alpha, the root of David, the Lamb slain, whereas the incarnation incorporated human genetics, the monogenes theos, Romans 1:3, John 1:18. That's his Omega identity. That's the offspring of David. That's your Order of Melchizedek. Is this then related to the first angel to worship he who made? Revelation 14:7? Yes, because it is written. And they overcame him, the dragon, by the blood of the Lamb. Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world, the Alpha, blood of the bullock, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Christ's identity as the Alpha and Omega, that blood of the Lamb as the Alpha and the Omega, the mingling of blood found there in Leviticus 16:18, and the source being eternal righteousness, Lamb slain 13:8. It is for those declared or sealed righteous still, and those holy still. How much more important it is to know this now. It's for those sealed righteous still and those holy still. For they overcame the dragon by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony of his eternal identity and eternal righteousness, the blood of the mingled offering, which cleanses their testimony. They overcome him by the blood of the Lamb. But what's the other thing? It's the word of their testimony about his eternal identity and eternal righteousness. And that mingled blood is what cleanses our testimony. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. The woe context, this woe, is in the three woes, and that's the 1290 to the 1335 literal days. Great wrath, he has a short time. Woe. How is this related to the first angel's warning? And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Friends, until one is familiar with the revelation of Christ as the Alpha and Omega, one will not see, let alone be clear, as to the wider purpose of the ministration in the court and ministration of great high priesthood of Melchizedek. But as to the matter of Hebrews 7:3, he was of no eternal generation, but made like unto the Son of God in the flesh, resolves the greater awareness of eternal righteousness. But why was the court to be not measured, but the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure not? For it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. It goes without saying as to why the theological instruction for the court to be not measured in Revelation 11 holds an implicit relation to the Day of Atonement. Something's not done yet. And also for the testimony of he who made, which, as we have seen, that for the purposes of the mingling of the two bloods for the atonement, cleansing of the court, because then it seems to not measure, the court also sustains the point of why the cup is filled to the double. But further, there is a war against the saints, and then it is all about the testimony of the saints. Notwithstanding, those sealed as holy still, and the righteous still, equals the ministration of Melchizedek, our great high priest, of the Alpha and the Omega, which is all about of the blood of the Lord's goat and the bullock, the mingling of the two bloods for our cleansing, our great high priest after the order of Melchizedek, and that he is the Alpha and the Omega. But no measurement is because God knows the individual sealed is still in sinful flesh. Nevertheless, the individual in sinful flesh holds one thing by faith, which is the testimony of Jesus, and that is the Alpha and Omega, the power of his Christ, and this testimony of his eternal righteousness by faith. Pictured in these two bloods mingled for our cleansing. The verbalized proof or seal in the forehead of Ezekiel 9. It can be said the time of the 1260 is a stern test of faith in he who made, and then the 30 additional days is the great test. God is merciful and sends 2 witnesses for support and proof of their testimony during those 1260 literal days against the first beast. There in Revelation 13. But then, when the 2 witnesses ascend, the saints are alone for the additional 30 days of the mark of the beast and the worship of the image, and then through to the 1335. This is the greatest test. But note the blessing of Revelation 3. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them, to dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Conclusion. The mingling of the 2 bloods, the bullock and the Lord's goat, equals Christ, and that is a symbolism of his identity as the Alpha and the Omega, which is all about his eternal righteousness, the power of his Christ, and why the first angel's warning is to worship he who made, because it concerns his eternal righteousness, his eternal identity as the Alpha and the Omega, and that's the insurpassable eternal righteousness of he who made. His identity is Alpha, the commencement of the program of slain eternal righteousness, and the end of the program, so there's your Alpha, there's your bullock, and the end of the program, Calvary, there's your Lord's goat, Omega, by way of the literal slain lamb that ushers in everlasting righteousness. The Alpha of the Day of Atonement, the scapegoat, and the expulsion of Lucifer from the most holy place, which was the northern universe, over to the altar in the court, which it represents the earth, which was what is pointed out, the mingling of the 2 bloods, which was the final cleansing of both houses, and then the final move of expulsion to the wilderness, the scapegoat, Azazel, and then the burning of Lucifer in the lake of fire, the Omega. Okay, friends, I hope that helped. Any questions? Our email is below. There's going to be the link for this thought paper in the description box below. I would encourage you to see some of the other thought papers dealing with the Alpha and the Omega and Melchizedek. May God bless. Until next time, pray about it,